Let me now go across to Pooja and to understand what has been the status as far as growth is concerned under the Modi government over the last 5 years. And of course, the economic review that has been presented by the Modi government has pegged the growth at 7% for FY25. What has been the previous, data point? And will we be on track to achieve 7% and even higher going forward from here? Pooja, over to you.
Thank you, Sakshi. So for India, remember, one of the major advances have been to become the 5th largest economy with their GDP. And that at a time when there was a COVID pandemic era has helped push India as an emergence of a rising power. You're looking at how there has been a consistency that has been seen in the past few years, past few years, with 7.4% to 8.3%. It did come slightly down to about 6.5% year on year as per GDP. It did definitely see coming down to 5.8. But remember, this 5.8 compared to other nations, even the Western nations, fairly developed economies, was much worse. And thereby, even the IMF has said that India is one of those bright spots, in fact, the only bright spot on an otherwise dark horizon. There has been a projection of 7.2, and it's not just about being the 5th largest economy. India clearly is focusing to now become the 3rd largest economy, and that is where the 5 trillion economy focus is going to come by. And this is when we talk about the GDP. Remember, for a country to have a stable economy, a GDP, specifically at the fluctuations, whether it's with regard to the Israel-Hamas war, the Russia-Ukraine war, or the COVID pandemic, all of these political, geopolitical issues around the world do impact the economy of a country too. And with that, India's stable economy has at least been a positive sign. However, Sakshi, as I come to you, as we continue to stay with the data and the details coming in, what does one make of the GDP? Because yes, there is a budget for the middle class, that is individual possibly to us. There is the auto sector. There are sectors across the country. But the GDP in itself is the focus always for a country, for a political stable government to ensure that this is something that always witnesses a projection up.
Well, absolutely, Pooja. But in the first half of FY24, India has managed to post a GDP growth of 7.7%, which is higher than other major economies. And India has retained the fastest growing major economy tag with this kind of a figure. Now, with the projections of even 7% coming in for FY24 and a little higher for FY25 as well, that gives us a glimmer of hope that the government is on track to meet the targets as far as GDP growth is concerned. It's been able to sail afloat India at a time when the globe is, down with the global uncertainties. You can see at least 4 countries in war situation. There are many countries that are still dealing with inflation. Last night, we even heard the US FOMC meet where the Federal Reserve chairperson has continued to keep the interest rates constant and unchanged for 4 straight times and has continued to maintain that inflation still remains elevated. There are still no signs of cutting rates over there. So developed nations are still struggling with higher inflation. For us, of course, inflation is a benchmark. RBI governor has constantly meant that we are keeping an Arjuna's eye on inflation figure, and we will continue to monitor that growth does not hamper at that point in time. Now, what can the finance minister really do to push up growth from here? One is consumer interest and the consumer buying that they have to spur at this point in time, because the rural economy has been facing some slowdown because of the fragmented rainfall that we had the entire last 6-8 months odd, which has tempered down some of the rural economy consumer buying, and that is something that we are looking at. Now, whether the finance minister will spur consumer buying by giving some extra amount of money in the hands of common man, by giving that extra push from the taxation relief front, is something that all the common citizens and the salary taxpayers will be watching out for very, very clearly. All right, and now let's go across and tell you some of the data points there. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the interim budget in hours from now, and here's what you can now expect. There is not much chance of modifications in tax slabs for salaried taxpayers. However, there is some hope for the middle class, as the budget can have policies for affordable housing and healthcare. The budget is also likely to focus on women, farmer and youth. As for some of the MSME sectors, the accessibility to financial aid might also become easier. The government will also focus on 5G development, data protection, and technology and innovation. The manufacturing sector may also get extended tax holidays and expansion in production-linked schemes. The other ask for the agricultural unit of the nation is that the interim budget plans to focus on technological advancements and greater access to loans and crop insurance. Meanwhile, the budget will also highlight real estate as key investment destinations. So these are the sectors and the big asks.